Okay, what's up, people? Welcome back to another stream. Hope everyone is doing well. As always, guys, if you're enjoying the content, please be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and of course, make sure you do go and hit the bell so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. Make sure you do check out the Discord channel to Elevating Traders, linked in the description. You can also find that at the top of the chat. You can chat with other traders, share ideas. I share some of my ideas there as well. So if you are interested to join a community, check it out, links in the description. But I hope everyone is doing well this Tuesday morning or afternoon or evening, depending where you are in the world. Hope everyone's doing well. Raphael, we will take a look at pound yen for you. I see you got a position on there. We'll go through pound yen shortly. I'll go through some USD side of things first as usual. So DXY, USD majors, gold, silver. Then we'll progress into some requests and see what you guys are looking to trade as well. Probably go through my watch list as well for the week. Kazim, what's up? Have a great day to you as well. Appreciate it. Hope you're well. But yeah, guys, let's start with the dollar. Yesterday was a bank holiday, so potentially that might have made things a little bit more kind of dry than it usually would be. And the market did see some momentum initially, but throughout the day was pretty stagnant, I would say. However, today's a little bit different. We've seen some activity a lot on the yen, which we'll get to. Yen's looking interesting. Some other pairs looking interesting as well. USD seeing some strength this morning. But I expect it to be short term. My take on the USD yesterday on the DXY was I'm still expecting a swing back into 98, which is this prior swing low. So that's still my expectation for the dollar. For this week or for the next few days. We might not be there by the end of the week necessarily, but that's the direction I expect price to push into. And yesterday I basically said we can pull back anywhere within this range, and I'll be expecting price to continue lower. If we were to break through the high here, that would of course be a red flag, and I'll probably just reanalyze the dollar from there onwards, because at that point we've got a break of structure. Hence, maybe we do see more upside than I initially anticipated. So, with dollar for now, anywhere between 99.4 really and 100.1, we could potentially see some downside. At the moment, price is pushing into some price support term resistance, so we could definitely see some downside from this level here, 99.4. I think looking at this from a more intraday point of view, you probably could find some nice entries here, maybe like euro or pound to go along, or some other USD pairs which we'll get through shortly. But we have pulled back into structure here, so if you could see some sufficient rejection, I do think this is a great place to short and anticipate at least a swing back to lows this week. Like I said, I do think we can go a lot further, but at least for this week anyway, there's a good chance we do return back to the lows there. So USD for me looking pretty bearish. We pull back into some nice healthy structure. I only see more downside for this one based on the current structure we have with this bearish trend, based on the fact that we broke structure to our left last week, so invalidating that bullish structure. I can only really be focusing on the sells now anyway, and of course taking into consideration the current bearish trend we have at play. It just looks like momentum is just going to spill over again, and the bears are going to take control. So if you are intraday, hourly and below, I would keep a close eye on this level at 99.4. That could send the USD back down again. And of course, looking at euro, which is pretty much the inverse of that. As you can see, we've got these higher highs and higher lows. So looking to follow this bullish trend here. And similar to the dollar, we pull back into some structure this morning. So again, more so like probably even like a 30-minute chart. I mean, this is the hourly. We could probably actually look for some entries on like a 30-minute, wait for some momentum to enter back into the market, and use that as an entry signal of stops below the low. I think that makes sense. And similar to the dollar as well, I do expect us to return back to these highs. So of course, I'm looking for the dollar to get back to the lows, and I'm looking for Euro USD to get back to its highs. We've completely broken through this bearish structure. That's in the past now, and now I'm just looking to continue with this bullish structure. Same with the dollar as well. Price can pull back anywhere within this range from that high to that low. We could pull back anywhere within here and continue. but more so kind of just focused on that level of resistance. And that was our prior high. We've broken through that. Now it's turned into support. Let's see if price can respect it. So I think if you can see some healthy rejection on euro, healthy rejection on the dollar, so get them in sync with each other, there might be some nice opportunities intraday. Again, at least a push back to the prior high, which is here. I know that's not much, but that's what you can, bet a good chance that price is going to get there. I still do think longer term we'll get all the way up here, but again, how price gets there, we're not to know. We might push up, come back down again, respect support, then push away. So you might get some nice entries here, but you could still be trailed out break even, despite price still reaching that level. So how price gets there exactly is of course only something we'll know after price has done it. But as long as we obey this bullish structure, I will continue with that bullish bias, expecting more upside. And as of now, we're still respecting that bullish structure. We come back into some nice support. I think that's a nice place to be looking to buy the market. So yeah, very bullish there for euro. Pound USD, very bullish as well. We've cracked major resistance on the daily, weekly chart last week. So that's really set the tone for this week. I'm just looking for a pullback and more upside. What I don't want to see happen is price close back below that same level, 1.34. If we do close back below this week, well, we're back to square one. That just becomes a big rejection, potentially a bit of a fake out, and we might see price roll over from then onward. So that will be a big red flag if we do close back below that level this week. As of now, I haven't really seen much momentum. I think that might be the result of the bank holiday yesterday, so we haven't really seen price do anything really this week, and it is only Tuesday as well, so we're not going to expect much anyway. But what I would be looking for would be a nice corrective pullback into structure for continuation back into resistance. I like this brief range over here because that's where the momentum came from last week. Friday in particular, we consolidated there for a few hours, a few candles there, and then price eventually ripped to the upside for that momentum. Now, if price could be kind enough to come back and retest that zone, I think that's a great place to be looking for some entries and naturally looking to target back at the highs, maybe a bit further as well if this trend does continue. But on the higher time frames, everything's very bullish. And again, not really seeing any signs of slowing down. So as a result, I can only be focused on the buys here. Until I see some red flags come into play, only focused on the buys there. For pound USD, in terms of dollar CAD, similar situation in terms of another USD pair. USD is pretty bearish, still expecting more downside, so the weakness of the dollar to be the overriding force here. I've marked this area here as my target for the week. Really strong kind of area of demand. Price consolidated there for a few weeks before we ripped to the upside. Since the big break, we haven't come back to revisit that zone. So this would be the first time. So I'm expecting at least a bit of a bounce when we get there as well. Whether I'm expecting a reversal or a bigger retracement is yet to be seen. I'll see how price reacts when we get there, but I do think we are likely to achieve that level. So I do still see more downside for the dollar CAD. We did break the lows here last week, so potentially the market is in need of some retracement now. And I did talk about this area here yesterday as a nice place to be shorting the dollar CAD, and I still stand by it. I really like this place. Brief support created, very kind of short-term pullback there, and the market absolutely dumped to the downside. Really aggressive momentum. So naturally, if price would come back to retest that zone, I do think we can get a continuation, at least back to the prior lows. But I do fancy that weekly zone on the weekly chart. So I do still expect more downside there for dollar CAD. So pretty bearish for this one. Looking for opportunities, I would wait for at least a 1.382, especially if you're looking for swing opportunities. I think that would be a really nice place to gauge some shorts. Even a test of that consolidation up there would be a nice place for a short as well, but I just don't see us having that big of a pullback. Maybe we do, so I wouldn't rule it out completely, but this is definitely something I'd focus on for now. And then we'll see how price reacts when we get there, but I still do see more downside back into 1.36 for USD CAD. And in terms of Aussie dollar, not much with this one. We tried to rip to the upside yesterday. but failed, came back down. So basically the ascending channel continues. I was hoping for a bit of a breakout with that bullish move, but we didn't get it. We tried to, price roll back over, back to square one. So the pullback to 0.625 potentially still on, to be honest. The longer the market stays in this kind of range here and stays within that kind of ascending channel, I think we do potentially break to the downside. If we did rip to the upside and break the highs, then of course I wouldn't be looking for that pullback anymore. But the fact that we fell at the highs does give me some hope that we can potentially break lower. Again, looking for price to come roughly into this kind of area for a buy. It does fit that kind of inverse head and shoulder pattern on the daily chart. I've gone through this many times now, and it's because I've been waiting for this opportunity for many weeks now. You can even see with yesterday's candle close, big wick to the upside, pull back down, really aggressive rejection. So looks like Aussie dollar's really failing at the highs there, which is interesting because I'm still pretty bearish on the USD. I think we can still see some weakness for the dollar, but I don't know. Maybe Aussie could potentially be weaker than the dollar. That could be the case, or maybe dollar is going to be strong. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I'm not interested in buying it. I'm really not interested in trading at all within that channel, to be honest. So I'm just waiting for price to clear all that mess out, come back to some fresh areas of support, and hopefully I can take some longs from there. But again, that probably is still, even if that move is going to happen, we're still 1 or 2 weeks away from actually getting an entry. So have to be very patient with that. New Zealand dollar, similar to Aussie dollar in terms of respecting the highs there very well. Again, don't really have a setup for what ends the USD. I was talking about the buys down here, closer to support. That's kind of where I wanted to buy New Zealand dollar last week. I was hoping that this bearish move could take us there, then I can buy it back up. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Price just respected support in the lower time frames and ripped to the upside from there. So since then, I've been talking about the break-even test of this level as a nice place to go long from, and I still stand by that. If we can see a healthy break above this level, I think that would be a great place to buy New Zealand dollar from. It's proven to be sturdy resistance. A break of that high will prove to us, okay, the trend is still alive. The buyers are still very much in control of the market. And that will leave behind a nice place for a retest for some more buys. So still overall bullish on New Zealand dollar. I still think there's more upside for this pair. In terms of places to buying the market, I think 0.584 still looks good. And of course, the retest of the high. We are coming into some support now, but I'm not convinced, to be honest. We're kind of trading within a range, and I don't really like trading in the middle of a range. If I have to, it's either down at the lows or the highs, not in the middle. Worst place to get involved. But yeah, those are the opportunities I can see on NZD/USD potentially coming into play. But at the moment, not a fan of where the current price is. Gold is looking interesting, I must say. It looks like price is rejecting the upper end of this channel here, which does put me in a bearish camp right now for gold. If things were looking bullish and we were breaking out the resistance here, breaking out the channel, then I would resume that bullish bias and just naturally expect a push back to the all-time highs. And that could still be the case if we do from somewhere get that breakout. As soon as we get that breakout, of course, I'm bullish. But because we are respecting the high very well and we have seen some momentum now, which is what I was talking about yesterday, this is definitely price rejecting that level. So this does put me in a bearish view for gold. And I wouldn't be surprised if you do get a swing all the way back down to support at 31.50, 31.40 here. So it's not looking good for gold. We've got some lower highs. Price is now respecting, and looks like potentially putting a third lower high in here. And that could take us a lot further as well, but at least a push back to support for now. So yeah, gold looking pretty bearish to me. I think downside is on the cards here, unless we miraculously break resistance there. Of course, I'll be bullish again, but for now, it's a firm rejection of that level. I do think we can see some more downside now for gold. Silver, on the other hand, I'm not too sure if this one, still kind of just messing about, to be honest, in this range. Still respecting the highs pretty well there, so perhaps maybe we do see a push down as well for silver, but nothing where I'm looking to trade it, to be honest. We're still kind of trading in this massive area of supply where we had that brief consolidation, ripped to the downside. Market's still really struggling at these areas, as you can see. Tapped into it there, tapped into it there. So that might give us another push back into support. But again, not a trade idea I'm looking to take myself. The conditions which I tend to favor are trending conditions, and that's not really what we got, at least on the kind of daily 4-hour time frame there for silver. Yeah, the longer term move is up, so I like that aspect of silver, hence why I'm still bullish. Still looking for new highs past 35 up there. I'm still waiting for a good opportunity to actually buy it. I've got my eyes on a couple levels of support on the higher time frames, but we are nowhere near them for now. And at the moment, still within the range. So, like I said, we are respecting supply pretty well. We might get a bit of a dump there back into the lows, but nothing where I'm getting excited for any opportunities for silver. So unfortunately staying away. But gold looks a bit bearish. If gold does drop a bit, that could invite silver to sell off as well. And maybe if we see some more strength for dollar, that could help too. But yeah, I'm not really seeing any good quality opportunities there for silver for now. What's up, Poppy? Welcome to the stream. Hope you're well. Ameth, welcome to the stream. Hope you're well. Just ignored all my alarms with Trump, Harrison yesterday's being a public holiday in the US. Yeah, true. Okay, it was a holiday in the US as well. I was wondering that. Yeah, it was a bank holiday yesterday, so the markets were a bit more quiet. It actually started off with a bit of movement, but yeah, throughout the day it was pretty quiet, to be honest. So yeah, taking the day off, not kind of taking in trades is definitely not a bad idea at all, because naturally you won't get that momentum that you normally would get in the market. So there's a good chance you enter a trade and price just kind of hovers around your entry price throughout the day there. Especially if you're intraday, probably not the best thing to do there. But yeah, markets were a bit quiet yesterday. What's up, Tashi? Good morning. Hope you're well. Good morning, Ahmed. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're well. Kazim, don't forget the famous quote, markets can remain irrational longer than you remain solvent. Yeah, very, very true. Very, very true. The markets are more powerful than you, than definitely a retail trade anyway. So you have to always show respect to the market and manage your risk as well, because that's the main thing. If you're going to enter a trade, make sure the risk is managed. Make sure that whatever happens, the loss is always going to be managed. And if you can do that, well, you keep yourself alive in the game a lot longer than the average person as well. And of course, if you apply an edge to that, well, you can make some money too. But you got to make sure that you're managing that risk, because at the end of the day, the market will eat you up if you're not going to be sensible in that aspect. I should have entered ease today afterwards. Yeah, I guess so. But again, I should have entered, I shouldn't have entered. It's always kind of, maybe I should have done this, maybe I should have done that, which in trading is always just almost meaningless, but there is lessons there. That's the key thing. But then again, when it comes to the next bank holiday and things are looking slow again, do you still enter the trade? Maybe after learning what happened yesterday, maybe you do, or maybe you decide the market's going to be slow again, maybe I shouldn't. There is no right or wrong answer. It's just consistency. There'll be traders that don't look to trade the bank holiday and stay out the markets, and that makes sense to me. There'll be traders who don't really care and will trade anyway. That makes sense to me as well. I mean, I'm one of the latter ones. If I do get a good trade, I'll still look to take it. But that's primarily because I'm slightly on the higher time frames. I enter in the 4-hour chart. So, if I do enter a trade and the market does move sideways, well, that's only probably about maybe 3 or 4 candles of the 4-hour chart, which doesn't really mean much. If you're entering the 15, well, momentum's a big part of your edge there, especially for the day. I'm more so looking at the momentum for the week. So if I enter on the Monday, it doesn't really matter too much as long as momentum comes at some stage during that week. So in my situation, I don't really, I'm not really too bothered about the bank holiday too much. If I was a bit more intraday, I probably would probably stay away. Certainly if I was 15-minute and below. But yeah, there's no right or wrong, just consistency and learning from your mistakes as well. That's the only thing that really does matter. But yeah, in terms of pound yen, we are looking pretty bullish here. Yen looking pretty bearish this morning as well. I do think we can still see some weakness for the yen. I'll go through the yen basket in a moment. But yeah, pound yen looking very strong. I think pound's a little bit strong as well. So I think that's helping out pound yen to the upside. Well, we talked about some yen buys yesterday. I wanted the price to kind of push a little bit further to the downside before we did actually have that rally. I was discussing this on the weekly analysis on the weekend. I like this zone here. Brief kind of consolidation. Not the most obvious, but we did kind of pause here slightly before we did rip to the upside. And we haven't come back to revisit that area. So I was hoping to see price potentially pull back into that zone, retest it, and then continue. But no, we're looking pretty bullish right now. It was a very, very strong candle, that last 4-hour candle. So it looks like at this point, pound yen is going to rally back to highs at 196. And I think there's some nice opportunities on the low time frames, to be honest, because that is a very kind of statement move there for pound yen, really showing to us that the buyers are in charge here. So if you can get some pullbacks, retest some structure, I think that's a very, very smart place for a buy. And you got some opportunities there to follow. I think more so 30, 50-minute time frame, you probably get some nice entries to really maximize the opportunity here. But sort of a double bottom at the lows, break to the upside, higher low. Now we're seeing some clear higher highs, taking out all this mess now. So the longs down here make a load of sense to me. And naturally, would expect price to push to 196 now. So pound yen looking very, very bullish. Raphael, you said you got long at 193.386. 193.386. That's around there somewhere. So looking good in terms of the entry. Stop loss 192.673. So that will put you around there. And then targets 197.047. So that's about there. I think maybe you might be aiming for something around there. But yeah, I like the trade. Nice entry. Of course, price is rallying in your favor very, very well. So you're sitting in a comfortable position right now. At this stage, I probably would trail stops at least to break even, just to mitigate the risk against me, because I've already caught this initial kind of impulse in my favor. If price was to now go all the way back down again, it's more of a red flag than a positive sign. I probably would want to be out of the trade at that point. I can always look for a re-entry if price is still going to respect support there. So I probably would trail stops to break even, just to remove risk. And because the market's already sensibly in my favor, it's not like it's just gone a little bit into profit. Price has already made some nice healthy gains in your direction, and impulsively made that move as well. So I would remove risk, put stops to break even. In terms of targets, I probably would just look at the high here. I'm sure you got your reasons of why 197 is your target, but of course price could definitely run into some trouble here and come back down again. So I think sensibly, I wouldn't say necessarily adjust your target, but maybe be careful at this level. You can still have a target at 197, but if you do see some red flags here, healthy rejection, you can look to either secure some partials or maybe you can call it a day at that level. That'll be up to you to decide. But I like the idea. It looks really, really good. I do think more yen weakness is likely to come into the market, so that should help your trade out further. I think in terms of the market structure, the higher highs and higher lows we've seen here, it just does look like the trend is likely to continue. Of course, anything can happen. We're not guaranteed to see price go and hit your target, of course not. But in terms of probability, in terms of how everything's shaping up, it does look like that's the likely move. So really nice trade here. I would expect more upside now for pound yen, and at least a push back to 196 area, which is that high. 197, sure, if we do break structure, probably will tap that area there as well. But yeah, I would be a bit cautious at 196 because we could run into a bit of trouble. But looking pretty good, I have to admit. Yusuf, good morning. Hope you're well. I am doing good. Thank you for asking. Hope everything is well with you. Do you enter trades late on a Friday? It depends on the pair, but most of the time I would do so just because I want to have that consistency. Because there's many times where I would not enter a trade late on a Friday and then I'll wake up on Monday morning and prices are already, 1R in my favor. So now I don't even have a re-entry to get in if I wanted to. So I would still take the entry. I know I'm running into potential problems with gaps. I know I'm running into potential problems with spread as well. It will widen, as the market reopens again, and of course swap. So I'll potentially be paying swap. Of course, I might have positive swap. Depends on the pair I'm trading, the direction as well. But there is extra worry with entering late on Friday, holding over a weekend. And again, like I said, it's there's no right or wrong. There's just pros and cons. So some people wouldn't want to do that because of the reasons I just said, and it makes perfect sense. The reason why I do it is because, again, I'm trading the 4-hour chart, so my stop losses are on the slightly bigger side, so I do have a bit more room to play with. At least my stop loss will be at least 50, 60 pips, but it can be well over 100, sometimes even 200 pips if things are quite volatile. So I do tend to give myself decent room. So gaps, potentially I can still stomach them. Of course, sometimes there will be that gap that's quite a big one, which happens like once a year. That I can't really control. So sometimes I will be punished for that, of course. That's one of the cons. But most of the time, the gaps aren't that big. It doesn't really affect my trade too much. And again, this is because I trade in the 4-hour chart. If I trade on the 15-minute chart, I wouldn't want to enter a trade late in the Friday. Even if I was going to exit on a Friday later in the day, it just there's no momentum. So I wouldn't want to do that, and especially I wouldn't want to hold over the weekend if I'm entering on the 15. So that's a big no-no. But because it's the 4-hour, I've got a bit more freedom for that swing. But yeah, in my case, I will still enter. If it's like a pair which I know gaps a lot, or a pair which I know spreads might open, I might even take the trade, but I might not even put a stop loss in there. Just wait for the market to reopen on Sunday evening. Then I add the stop loss manually past kind of spread hours. But yeah, I will still take positions because I'm looking for a swing bias. I'm looking to try and hold for a few days, potentially a couple of weeks if things go well. If it's an intraday bias, then no, I wouldn't enter on a Friday. Late on a Friday. EJ, of course, I'm going to take a look, go through all the yen pairs, to be honest. They're looking pretty interesting. DT, what's up? Hope you're well. Would you have said what's up earlier but was working? Okay, no worries, my man. Also, this last month of test trades before raising my lot size to test my strategy. If this works, I could be hitting my take profits on a bi-weekly basis. Okay, nice. I like the fact that you're testing as well. Because of course you gotta, sometimes put your foot in the accelerator sometimes, but of course within reason too. In my experience, I've been guilty of upping my lot sizes too quickly as well. You do well in the markets for a nice span of time, 3 months, 6 months, then you potentially look to increase your lot size, which is not a bad thing. You want to progress, and increasing your lot sizes is one way of doing that, of course. But just be prepared for the bigger drawdowns. That's one thing that can catch you off guard, a little bit. The bigger drawdowns. Of course, the bigger profits are all great, but of course, bigger drawdowns, and not necessarily bigger drawdowns in terms of percentage, just monetary, which is something that you want to kind of mentally digest first and be prepared for before you actually see them on your screen. That way, you're ready for it. But anyway. In terms of the yen basket, I'll go through the yen basket quickly, and then I'll go through UJ and EJ as well. What's up, Guna? Welcome to the stream. Hope you're well. Good morning. It's going well. I left a message to you on the server. Good morning. Okay, I'll take a look after the stream. But welcome to the stream. Hope you're well. Yes, I'll take a look at Bitcoin. Please do not spam the chat, or we're going to have to kick you out. Yeah, one message is fine. If I don't see it, you can do it. Of course, message me again, but because it does ruin the chat for everyone else as well. Anyway, JPY basket is looking pretty bearish this morning. We've come back into a very interesting level, and the market has respected it very, very well. So I do think from this area we can see a swing. This is basically the swing I've been talking about for the past 2 weeks now, looking for this move to the downside. So that's why I've been pretty bullish on the yen pairs, because I'm expecting the yen itself to lose some strength and come back down. And it looks like this morning, especially with that last 4-hour candle, we've kind of seen that come into fruition. I've talked about this ascending channel here. Again, very, very corrective behavior. This type of price action normally means we're getting ready to break lower. And now we have broken lower. Of course, we still got a long way to go to get from here to the lows, but that's the direction I'm expecting price to move into. So yeah, pretty bearish here for the yen. I think, especially from an intraday point of view, if you can get some pullbacks here on some of the yen pairs, I would look for some more shorts. We've got the high there, lower high. I would expect another lower high to form another push down. So I'm pretty bearish on the yen basket. I'll probably say this is the next big target, this swing low here. And then of course we can start talking about the lows here again. But in my book, yen basket is looking pretty bearish. So yeah, I do think more yen weaknesses to come. So taking that into consideration with some other yen pairs like dollar yen, I do think we can rally. However, I'm not quite convinced about dollar yen in terms of a big swing all the way back to the highs. I've spoken about this yesterday. I'm not quite convinced. I do think the market will see some upside because we're looking very fatigued here. We were moving in this descending format, which again is not necessarily price showing that the bears are very much in charge. We're kind of seeing a corrective move down, which tells me that, okay, we probably will break to the upside at some point, at the very least to retrace this move. So that's kind of what I'm looking at now for USD JPY. But I do think the bigger move is still to the downside back to 140. And basically the continuation of this bearish trend is to that play. So I'm still pretty bearish on dollar yen, but I do think we can push up, potentially form a lower high here, and then make our move down. So that could be a nice swing opportunity that does present itself over the next few days. 145.5, maybe it does turn into a big head and shoulder pattern. There's your left, there's your head, and of course that would be your right shoulder over there. So that's definitely something to look into there for dollar yen. I know we're looking pretty bullish now, but I'm not really interested in the buys here. We just about held onto support to our left, but I'm not convinced that we are going to have a big rally. Maybe we do, but I wouldn't be looking to follow that. If I can see healthy rejection as we come back into 145.5, this level here, I think that's a great short, and it could be one that takes us all the way to 140 as well. So I think the risk is worth the reward for that one. But yeah, dollar yen, I think the bigger move is down, but I still do see a bit more upside in terms of retracing this bearish move. You know, the 50% lines up very well with that level. I think that's where we could be drawn towards. Euro yen, on the other hand, I'm not the biggest fan of the price action here. I do think overall the market is just quite messy. So it's definitely not my favorite yen pair to trade. But again, with this one, we are still just about respecting structure. We came back into the low last week. Had a very big piercing wick through the zone. But the key thing is we respected the zone. And now momentum is looking pretty bullish. So as I said yesterday, I think a great trade for Euro Yen would be, especially in the lower time frames like the hourly chart, is if we can rally through the highs here and really commit to the upside, show momentum above these highs. Because this is all noise here. This is all kind of consolidation, noise, messy price action. If we could see price rally through the highs here, that clearly says to us, okay, buyers are in control, momentum's with the buyers. You know, we respect his support. We're probably going to push back to the swing high now at 165 there. So if you can get a pullback, a retest, that will look like a really great trade, a high probability trade as well, especially if you can drop to the lower time frames and maximize that risk reward, because could still be looking at a really big swing there. If you can drop to like a 15 and to there, could be looking at 1 to 5 plus in terms of the risk reward. So there's still opportunity here. But in terms of a solid setup, I think I'd wait for 163.3 to clear, which is basically this resistance here, and then some opportunities above that, maybe even the retest of this area here as well, but I'll still wait for that level to clear first, and then some buys. But yeah, Euro Yen to me looks very, very bullish. I like the way we respected support there last week. Like I said, I still expect the yen weakness to come through, so that should help drive Euro Yen higher. Yeah, I do think Euro Yen can keep pushing. But in terms of a good quality setup for a trade, I do want to see that break of structure. And that says to me, okay, buyers in control, we're likely going to keep pushing here. So that would be my take on Euro Yen. I let all the noise get in the way of my analysis. Now I don't have any trades. It happens, Poppy. I know you like to beat yourself up, but it happens. No one's perfect. Sometimes noise gets in the way of my analysis as well, and I miss some setups. I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. Not even the best trader ever to live is perfect. They'll still make mistakes too. So, it's only right that we still make mistakes as well. So, not gonna be perfect, of course. As I always try and say, you gotta learn from your You gotta learn from your mistakes. You turn the mistakes into lessons, and that will make you better tomorrow. But yeah, that mistake will still happen. Sometimes I kind of get too particular with my analysis as well, instead of trying to keep it a bit more simple. And that leads me to miss a trade that was actually a good trade, but I kind of overcomplicated it sometimes, and I miss out on that move as well. So sometimes that happens as well. And the thing is, once you sort out that mistake, there'll be a new mistake to sort out. There's always a new issue on your trading horizon that you're going to have to tackle. There's always going to be a new mistake, or at least something you can improve. But yeah, I'll get to Bitcoin. Siraj, good morning, Jonathan. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're well. DT, I've literally been trying to get $1 to $3 on a regular basis since Jan, and I'm making myself wait till July to go up one lot up, and it sucks, but I feel it's worth. I think that's good patience. That's really good patience, DT, because you're kind of making yourself wait to move up. In terms of you have to earn it to move up, and I think that's a really sensible move, because a lot of people kind of do it spontaneously. I know when I first tried to up my risk, it was kind of a spontaneous judgment. I never kind of planned to up my risk. It was just like, okay, I've been doing well, let me just up my risk, which again is fine in terms of, okay, you've been doing well, you can up the risk, but it was a spontaneous thing, not like, okay, let me just monitor myself over the next 6 months. How do I do? Do I earn the right to up the risk? Yes, I do. Okay, let's up the risk. That's more kind of organized and planned. Spontaneous things is when you kind of just up the risk randomly, because then you don't think too much about the downside either. And the funny thing is, once you've been doing well, naturally there's always going to be a bit of a dip in your performance. Just like every edge is going to give back gains a little bit at some time. So when you do up the risk is when you kind of give back gains. So the drawdown is just so much bigger than you expected, and that can affect with your head. So I really like the fact that you're kind of giving yourself a set date. I think that's a very sensible move, to be honest. And naturally, you see how things go there. And if it's not going too well, you can always decrease risk and have to keep the risk high. I think that's a mistake people fall into. You up the risk and you feel like you just got to stay there. You can always bring it back down if things are not going too well. Capital preservation is still number one. But of course, you have to try and progress too. So I really like the way you're going about it. But yeah, it might feel like you still have to wait. But I think that's a very sensible move, to be honest. Especially in a game where being not sensible is so easy to do. Anyway, let's take a look at BTC. So Bitcoin still overall very bullish. Of course, we did create new all-time highs last week, didn't we? Past the high here. So things overall still look very bullish. We are becoming a little bit corrective, which is maybe a bit of a worry, because you kind of like Bitcoin to rip to the upside. And that kind of resembles strength with Bitcoin there. If we kind of dilly-dally and kind of move sideways a little bit, then that kind of makes me expect to see a bit of a drop soon, but we're not quite there yet. I think especially intraday, things still look very bullish here. We're still respecting support. We formed a nice double bottom at the end of last week. That was on Sunday. and it looks to be holding very well too. So naturally, I think Bitcoin is still likely to rally back to the highs at 111,800. I think we'll just call it 112. I think we're still likely to rally there. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I really still want to see more momentum for Bitcoin. If we kind of just sluggishly get to the highs and then come back down again, and that will start to form a bit of an ascending channel, and that's not really what you want to be seeing for Bitcoin. That could mean, yeah, sure, we do take out some more highs, but you might go for a bit of a sell. So I'll be cautious of that. But yeah, for now, Bitcoin's still bullish, especially if you're looking at it from an intraday point of view. I think there's still very high chance we still push back to highs there. There's no kind of massive red flag that would make me be bearish. So things still look good for now for Bitcoin. Yeah, that's fine, Poppy. That's fine. I mean, if you don't have anything to watch this, you just gotta sit on your hands and let the market do its thing. You have times where there's no trade and times where there's almost too many trades, and you have to kind of pick which ones are the better ones and make sure you don't overtrade. And that's the thing with trading. Things can change very quickly. Things look dead. You might not have any opportunities. Give it a day or two. You might have 3 or 4 which you're kind of debating to choose from. Things can change very quickly, and you just want to be ready for that. It's all part of the game. Navid US30, sure. I will take a look for you, no problem. Mammoth Gold in the DAX, no problem. We'll take a look as well. So yeah, US30, I believe, is looking semi-bullish last time I checked. Strong close yesterday. I do like the close. I must admit, yesterday was a very, very nice close. Price spiked to the downside on Friday last week. Then Monday, nice, healthy, bullish engulfing candle. So I do think price is now likely just going to head back to resistance again and probably give us the big break. So in terms of direction for US 30, I'd only be bullish on this one. It sort of resembles a inverse head and shoulder pattern as well. There's your left, there's your head, there's your right shoulder, that's your neckline. Looks like to me price is breaking through the level there, and this is where I expect us to get to. So yeah, I think US 30 buys look really good. In terms of actually finding a trade, I think you can keep things relatively simple. Wait for us to get that breakout there, then simply look for the retest of that zone for a continuation. I probably would drop maybe to like an hourly chart, or probably even like a 30-minute chart, to be honest, for an entry. So if I can see price continue to rip to the upside, that would be brilliant. And then pull back for me. Yeah, I probably would drop to like a 30 for an entry there at least. And then, yeah, targets back to the swing high, wherever that forms. And then maybe I can hold some positions back to the high over there, because that's where I do think the bigger move still will be. But yeah, I think this is like a nice reversal opportunity. We've gone from bearish structure to now bullish structure. So the plan is kind of find that next higher low and can I trade it back to the swing high. So yeah, US 30 to me looking very, very bullish. I like the buy opportunities there, especially on the lower time frames. In terms of gold, like I said, gold not looking too good. I think gold's still got more downside to give, to be honest. The way that price is fading at the highs there, not a good sign, because I was initially looking at this as a big bull flag, but typically on a bull flag pattern, you don't want to see a third lower high form. You want price to rally through this zone. And coming to the end of last week, it looked like we were going to see that, but no. Price kind of moved sideways. Of course, it was bank holiday. We didn't see too much movement yesterday, but this morning, we have seen a pretty strong reaction, and that does set the tone for me. So I'm actually looking for a push back down. The only way I change that bias is if, for some reason, we get a strong bullish engulfing candle breaking to the upside. Then, of course, I'm looking for a push to the swing high. But that isn't the case. We've seen momentum here. I would be looking at more downside now for gold, and that should take us back to 31.40, maybe even further to the downside, maybe even the lows here as well. But for now, it looks to me a third lower high is forming. I would be pretty bearish in gold for now, to be honest. It's not looking too good for that one. In terms of the DAX, I believe last time I looked at this one, it was looking pretty bullish as well. Yep. Wow, okay, more bullish than when I looked at that. I think, yeah, I looked at it yesterday here. But this morning, yeah, taking charge there, new all-time highs again. So with the DAX, not much to do with this one apart from just focus on the buys. It's at all-time highs. Momentum still looks good. I wouldn't try and do anything clever with this one. Sells, I wouldn't really pay it much attention to the sells. I like the range here, which we just broke out of. If we could see a retest of that, I think that would be a sensible place for a buy. Even the retest of the high here as well. Just depends how big of a pullback we see. I think both areas make a load of sense. If we really break to the upside, then I'll just look at the retest of the high. If we pull back from now, then I'll look at the retest of the range. But either which way, I'll be looking at a pullback to keep buying this. Market's still bullish, momentum still looks strong. I don't see any reasons for looking to sell this. I don't see any reasons at all. So yeah, DAX looking very, very strong. More upside is very likely. Okay, Bitcoin conference taking place in Las Vegas. Okay, that'll be interesting. I'll keep an eye on BTC then. See how the price reacts. And the thing is, a BTC conference as well pretty much means conference for all other cryptos as well. If news is positive for Bitcoin, it's positive for the rest of crypto. Poppy, the US 30 has to get through the 100 and 200 million on the daily. US 500 looks a little better for me. Let's have a look. I remember US 30 still has the 200 above us. Ooh. Yeah, 200 above us there. That's the 100 above us over there. So yeah, we do have some noise with the 200 and 100, but I do think we get above it anyway because of what the S&P and what the NAS has done. I do think the US 30 is just going to follow what the S&P are doing. But yeah, I do agree because S&P is above the 100, above the 200 already. And it's actually respecting it as support as well. I do think the S&P for that reason is a lot better opportunity because US 30, you're kind of buying into resistance a bit of the moving averages, of course. But the S&P is actually using the moving averages as support. So I do agree there, Poppy. We are using support very, very well. The moving average as support very well. So that gives you a little bit more confidence with the buys there for the S&P rather than the buys for US 30. But in terms of the pattern on the lower time frames, it's pretty much the same. But you would probably want to be backing the S&P over US 30. I expect them both to do the same thing because 9 times out of 10 they do. But again, if you're a very technical based trader, you're always looking to take the best technical setup. And I would definitely agree the S&P is a better technical setup. But again, similar situation in terms of the inverse head and shoulder pattern, left head, right shoulder. Again, I'll probably drop to like a 30-minute time frame. Wait for us to kind of really clear this to the upside and then look for some pullbacks or retests. And that would be my buying opportunity back to highs. So yeah, I would agree. Excuse me. S&P does look a lot better. But yeah, same pattern on the lower time frames. Looking at that as being a bit of a bottom. I really like that wick from last week. And looks like now we're progressing back to highs. So everything is looking pretty bullish to me. And I don't see signs of us slowing down here. And of course, NAS pretty much the same situation. In fact, let me add the 200 moving average again. This one didn't quite come back to retest the 200, but it's still comfortably above it, which is the key thing. We're not trading into it as resistance like US 30. So because of that, the S&P is looking pretty juicy, I must say. But for all three of them, I do think we're naturally going to head back to the highs there. So that's the swing bias I have for all three major US indices. But yeah, in terms of the the setup, yeah, S&P does look better. No problem, Ameth. Happy to help. Poppy, use 500 was one of my alarms. Oh, yeah, unfortunate. Yeah, again, I mean, the market was pretty slow yesterday. It was pretty slow yesterday, so I think in terms of bank holiday, not going to see much movement. You were right. We didn't really see much movement. The market opened up here Sunday. In fairness, Sunday was pretty bullish in terms of the couple of hours price had on Sunday, at least from the UK time. So we did open up with some momentum, but since then the market was pretty flat. We didn't do anything. So yeah, I think from an intraday perspective, in terms of not entering on a bank holiday, I think it makes a lot of sense. But if you had a bit more of a swing bias, I would still enter, because I know I'm not holding for that day, even though that day might be a bit slow. I'm probably going to hold for the week. So entering on the bank holiday doesn't really mean too much to me. Oh, late on Friday. Okay, well, that's a different situation as well. Okay, I see why. That's probably why you asked me about, do I enter trades late on Friday? Yeah, again, in another world, another alternate universe, you might have entered those trades on the Friday, but maybe price might have gapped the downside, and you be holding a big loss there. So it's always if, buts, and maybes. It's always if, buts, and maybes. But not entering late on a Friday is not a bad thing. A lot of people don't do that for obvious reasons. From my experience, if you are looking for bigger swings in the market, then you're not too bothered about that. You can still enter late on a Friday, but just make sure you got a decent sized stop loss to potentially stomach any, mess that comes along with the weekend, which you potentially might not know how much damage you were doing to the market. Of course, you would never know until the market does open. And that's just one of the risks of holding over the weekend, entering late on a Friday. There's no kind of correct answer to that. But personally, I would, as long as I'm managing risk, I don't really see the big issue with it. Maybe I do take an unnecessary loss from here and there, but if it does mean I can still take my wins, I still see the advantage of it. But S&P looking really good. It looks like more upside is likely. I'm going to go through the rest of the yen pairs. I'm currently still holding New Zealand CHF, which is not moving particularly great. It's been a little bit up and down, but I'm still just about in a bit of profit with this one, but I'm still looking for a very big swing. Back to the highs. And again, it goes back to this sort of situation. If you're looking for a trade like this, you're not too worried about what's going to happen within one day, because if this swing is going to happen, it's probably going to take a week or two at the very least to play out. So you're not too concerned about one day being a bit slow, because it's not really going to affect the whole trade as a whole. And even a weekend as well. But still holding New Zealand CHF, basically just buying at the lows, stop loss at the lows, looking for that momentum to pick up. We'll see if we can get price to really push on, but at the moment we're still a little bit flat. Haven't really seen the weakness in the CHF I've been after. The main driver for me with this trade is probably going to be CHF weakness, which we haven't really seen yet. I'm still banking on some strength on NZD and Aussie as well. That hasn't really come into play either, but I am basically trying to look to short CHF with this position. Just NZD CHF turned out to be one of the better setups. So we'll see how that does progress. In terms of the yen pairs, I have been keeping an eye on New Zealand yen and Aussie yen. I said those are the two yen pairs I really like this week. I'm not too sure if I'll get the opportunity to actually find a trade on either of them. Because, I'm not sure if we do come back to support. I said yesterday that we can drive lower back into support. I will keep an eye on potentially a double bottom there for New Zealand yen. I also like the support level here at 83.4. So if you have a really big sell-off this week, I still do have that bullish bias, and I might be able to pick up some longs down there, but I'm kind of keeping an eye on that double bottom. I like the way we're coming into this area of demand here, where price did consolidate briefly. Pretty nice rally to the upside. I like the idea of us returning to that zone and then pushing up. And of course, a swing back to resistance. And again, if the yen basket is going to drop for us, which I think we're likely to see, that should help New Zealand yen push up, and Aussie yen as well. And Aussie yen was very close to potentially giving me an entry. I was looking to see if we can double bottom at the low here, but we kind of just about missed it. So I was hoping we can push a little bit further down. But even then, this was whilst I was sleeping anyway. This was like 2, 3 a.m. We closed at 6 a.m. and then we pushed up anyway. Yeah, not quite back into support there. We might still see that happen. So again, not going to rule that out. The double bottom still an opportunity which I will look to capitalize on should I see the opportunity arise. We're still trading at some really healthy support. Again, looking at that big inverse head and shoulder pattern. So there's your left shoulder, there's your head, there's your right shoulder, that's your neckline. I'm looking for price to now rally back to those highs there at least, but I'm expecting further as well. So I'm liking the price action here for Aussie yen as well. Still a pair on the watch list, still a pair which I'm looking to try and find some entries for. Just staying patient really, and looking for that double bottom entry so I can get some stops underneath that low. In terms of some of the other yen pairs, CAD yen, not a big fan. I know we've had a lovely reaction this morning, very strong push to the upside, so I must admit things are looking a lot better than they did in previous days. But my main conundrum with CAD yen is just the quality of the market structure. We are just very sideways, and I don't want to be entering trades in the middle of a range because that's where all the noise is. That's where the likelihood of random wicks and just kind of getting faked out on a position will happen. If I can enter up the highs here, again, not necessarily perfect, not that you'll be immune to getting faked out, but it's always much easier to re-enter when you're at the highs or when you're at the lows. And by default, your risk reward is always a lot greater because if price does see a swing back to the opposite end, you know, if you're positioned here, it's always a lot better than being positioned there, of course. So you're just in a better place to take advantage of the swing of the market. But we're not even at the end. We're not even at the top or the bottom of the range. We're in the middle. So worst place to get involved. So for that reason, I'll stay away from CAD yen. I still think we'll see a move up higher, but that's just me with my expectations. Not really a clear setup, which is not something which I want to be trading. CHF JPY, this one's been pretty bullish as well. Not as bullish as some of the other yen pairs because I think CHF has seen a little bit of weakness, to be honest. So it's kind of which currency will be weaker, Swiss or yen so far. Looks like the yen is a bit weaker. We'll see if that does continue. But overall, the market structure is still horrendous with the Swiss franc. We are respecting resistance there pretty well, but I don't really have a clear setup to trade here either. I don't really have a long-term bias either as well. So I'm kind of just very much just keeping an eye on Swiss yen, but not trying to force anything. And of course, GJ we spoke about at the beginning of the stream. That's looking pretty bullish. That's looking pretty healthy as well. I think GJ naturally just ends up back at the highs here, to be honest. So I think GJ probably looks the best out of the yen pairs in terms of current momentum and the likelihood of us pushing up higher. So I must give my kudos to GJ at the moment. But I'm still looking at some buys for both Aussie and New Zealand yen. Poppy, can you please put 100 MA on New Zealand CHF with the daily? Okay, I will. King, welcome to the stream. Hope you're well. Just arrived. What do you think of Euro USD? Okay, I'll take a look. Let me have a look at this 100 on New Zealand CHF, but I will go through. The Euro USD for you. Okay. Did you say 100 or 200? 100. Okay, so yeah, the 100 on the New Zealand CHF has acted pretty well as resistance, I must say. We've seen a lot of retests of this area. It has obeyed the market pretty well. Again, 100, 200, really good moving average in terms of trending conditions. And New Zealand CHF, for the most part, has been pretty trending for a while now. It's not the cleanest market in the world, but when we do trend well, moving averages do kind of allow us to kind of gauge the trend pretty well. And it's acted as resistance pretty well there too. So yeah, it's been pretty well acting as resistance. Maybe we do come back and retest it. That's kind of what I'm banking on as well. More so the 200 moving average on the daily as well, which I would imagine would be a little bit higher up. Yeah, up there. So that's kind of what I'm looking for price to return to, because of course when we do move away from the moving average, you do expect price to return back to the mean, which would be somewhat the moving average there. So I do think we can push back into those areas and go and test those levels, the 100, 200. Of course, I'm looking more so at this area, but I do think we'll naturally head back towards those moving averages. But yeah, that moving average does kind of give us that overall kind of bearish trend for the market. But I'm looking to see if I can trade towards the mean there. And especially because we're coming from all-time lows as well. It's not like it's just a random pullback. You know, these are the lowest prices New Zealand CHF has ever been. And every time the market does create a new all-time low, it does tend to spike up pretty quickly afterwards. So we've done that again. I do expect us to recover pretty soon after. And that's kind of the logic behind the trade. But we'll see how that does progress. Anyway, let's take a look at Euro USD. And Nazir will take a look at Pound NZD as well. Pound Aussie too, no problem. So Euro USD, I've been talking about some buys for this one. I'm still pretty bullish on Euro. We've seen some nice higher highs and higher lows, so as I've mapped out here. And we have pulled back into some structure now, so I still remain pretty bullish. We've broken out of this descending channel, which was our pullback, and now I'm looking at this move. Even though it hasn't been electric, we haven't seen crazy momentum here. It's been actually pretty corrective on the way up, but I am still very bullish on Euro. I still think there's a very high chance we do return back to the highs there. So that's my expectation for Euro USD, a swing back into the highs. As long as price doesn't break through this zone here, I stay bullish. So we can pull back anywhere within this zone, and that still retains my bullish bias. If, of course, we were to break to the downside, you know, I'll kind of put that bias to one side and kind of reanalyze and go again from there. But for now, structure is still being obeyed, still seeing higher lows and higher highs, so I do remain pretty bullish here. And at the moment, we're coming back to retest some structure, some prior resistance, which should be acting as support. Haven't seen much evidence of that on the lower time frames. 30-minute chart as well, not a lot of momentum, a lot of wicks to the upside, so that's not really what you want to see. In terms of a good trade, a good entry, I would wait for some healthy momentum to enter the market again. So like a strong bullish engulfing candle like that on an hourly chart, or at least the 30-minute chart, I think would be a fantastic signal, because it says, okay, not only has this momentum kind of died out, but the buys are kicking in back in this level. That would be a nice entry signal. Stocks below the low. If you want to keep it simple intraday, maybe target back to a high there. But I do think we can run back to that level up there at 1.156. So there's a long way up for Euro USD. If that long-term bias does play out, could probably skew gains along the way. But yeah, in terms of where we're situated, in terms of the market structure, I do think Euro still has upside to give. And same thing for the DXY, but of course in the opposite direction. We pull back into some structure now. This is basically the zone I'm looking at for the DXY. We can pull back anywhere within this range here, as long as we don't break through that high. If price does break through the high, well, we've got break structure, I'm going to have to reanalyze the DXY. But yeah, as long as we maintain that zone, I do feel like another low high can print. We've got one over there, second, there's our third. We're looking for a fourth somewhere, and a swing back into support at 98, which should mean a lot more weakness for the dollar and should mean a lot more strength for Euro. So that's kind of where I'm at for now. Okay, so we'll go through Pound NZ and Pound Aussie. So Pound NZD looking quite bullish. I've been waiting to kind of sell this one. I still am looking to sell it. We're at some major resistance right now, so I'm very interested to see how price reacts with this level, because I'm basically looking at this as a potential head and shoulder pattern. There's your left, there's your head, and there's your right shoulder. If price does respect this level, I do think there could be a really nice sell back into support and further. If price does break through this level, starts to use that support again, maybe price is just going to swing back to highs, maybe even further, maybe continue the trend. So that could be the case as well. But I am looking to see what we can do at this level, which is 2.27. I was about to say 1 point something there, but nope, we're trading at the 2s. So 2.275 seems to be very solid resistance, and now we're at it again. So let's see how price reacts with this. If we do see some healthy rejection, some nice wicks to shift the momentum, I think this is a great place to short the market. Again, don't necessarily have to be looking for the home run for a swing all the way back to the lows. I know I said that I expect price to get there, but there's many areas of support. You can look to lock in gains, take some profit and call it a day. You don't have to be looking for the bigger trade, especially if you're going to lose the lower time frames to enter a trade. You can hit some healthy risk rewards into levels like these. But yeah, it's a very pivotal area. On the flip side, on the other side of the coin, if you do see a healthy breakout, as I mentioned, I would be bullish on this pair. But yeah, I would wait for that breakout to happen first before I would be bullish. Don't be buying directly into resistance. But it's a very interesting area for pound NZD. I think pound Aussie is in a similar situation in terms of we got a lot of momentum right now. We're pulling back into some structure, which is basically the high here. And basically, if we can respect this, this still keeps me bearish. If price does break to the upside, well, that's a break of structure, and perhaps we could be seeing a bullish pound Aussie back into the highs up there, and that could take us back to the swing high and maybe some new highs as well, because the trend is still to the upside. But I've been looking for a bigger move back down because we have broken through some structure, taking out the COVID highs to our left. So I have been looking for a bit of a pullback, even if the bigger move is still up. But I've been looking for a bit of a correction, but we just haven't really seen that correction, to be honest. Looks like the buyers are still very much in control of the market, and a strong break of that resistance at 2.1 does really set the tone there. So I'm very much going to keep an eye on pound NZD and pound Aussie, because they're both coming into some big levels together, which I think kind of makes sense because they do move the same way and they do pretty much the same thing as well. So if both of them go and break structure now and break to the upside, well then, yeah, I feel like they're going to be bullish and probably make their ways back to resistance at that point, back to their swing highs. But we'll see what we do at these levels, because if they do respect them, I think the sells still look very good. I'm still keeping an eye on like Euro Aussie as well, which is a very similar pair to pound Aussie and pound NZD. Again, for this one, I still like the shorts as well. Again, I am looking to play the counter trend idea. I do understand the trend is up, but I am looking to try and play the counter trend play, expecting to see a bigger retracement. We've had an exceptional rally to the upside for Euro Aussie. So I do think we're still a little bit stretched to the upside, even despite the pullback we've had. I still feel like the market can push down. I've been looking at this level here quite a lot, and I really do like it. If price can revisit that, that would definitely interest me for some shorts. And hopefully we can see a bit of a swing back to the lows again. Again, don't get me wrong, the bigger move might still be to the upside. I'm looking to see if we can get one more bearish leg. If the market does rally through that zone, well, then I'll probably just put me off the shorts, to be honest, because that would be the only level that looks good, high quality for a short. If we break through that, that does kind of put, that kind of does convince me that the buyers are probably stepping back into the market and taking control of things. And that could take us back to the highs. UNSD I'm not quite convinced with. I'm kind of leaving that pair alone for now. Bit more of a choppy pair. Nice descending channel essentially. Maybe prices are getting ready for a break to the upside, to be honest. But yeah, not really seeing good sell or a good buy at this moment in time, so I'll leave that pair alone. Another pair which I'm keeping tabs on is Euro Pound. I like the buys for this one, but it's still looking pretty bearish. We've been slowly dropping in this channel for a while. I'm kind of looking for this channel to put a bottom in to see a bit of a rally, but just haven't seen that happen yet. I mean, I am looking at this zone here to our left, which is a lovely level of consolidation price consolidated there for a few days actually, before we did actually get that really big breakout to the upside. And now price is coming back to revisit this. So this is a pair on the watch list. I'll go through my watch list as a whole in a bit. But yeah, this is a very, very nice level of demand, a lot of momentum, and now we're revisiting that area. So this does look a nice place for a buy, but we're just not seeing that momentum come into the market just yet. I mean, technically speaking, we can pull a lot deeper into the zone. It doesn't have to be right on the top of it. We can, can pull 3/4 of the way if we wanted to before we do rally. So I'm still giving it a lot of room to kind of pan out. But yeah, I do fancy Euro Pound. I do fancy the buys. I think the market's a bit stretched to the downside now, especially after such a lovely rally to the upside not too long ago. Of course, we've got these higher highs and higher lows at play. And I'm not even looking to try and catch another higher low. I'm just trying to look to catch a bounce, really. Just a reaction to the upside. The bigger move might still be bearish. It might still take us lower. But if I can take advantage of a move like that, I'll be happy because I probably could at least lock in some gains there. It's a sort of situation where I take the trade and I kind of just see what happens, because maybe we do get a swing back to the high there and it turns to be a massive trade, or maybe price just has a brief bounce and then continues lower. Either way, it gives me a chance to walk away with a profit. Of course, if it does that, I can walk away with a lot more profit. But either way, I still think we're likely to see a bounce, because when the market is moving like this, very kind of corrective, slow pace, it does tend to give us a break to the upside. How big of a one, is always yet to be seen until it does happen. But I do expect us to have a bit of a push. So Euro Pound is on the watch list, not for anything crazy, but because I do expect to see some buying pressure kick back into the market. So I'm looking to see if I can take advantage of that. So Euro Pound is definitely on the watch list. As I said earlier, Aussie yen buys and New Zealand yen buys are still on the watch list. Hopefully can find some entries for these ones. I don't think I will, to be honest, but I'm just going to stay ready, to be honest. Whether I think I will or not doesn't really matter. If it does happen, I just need to make sure I'm there to take the trade. But yeah, New Zealand yen, I like the longs for this one as well. Look and see if we can return back to the highs there. If I don't get the buy here, then I will look for some entries a lot lower down, 83.5. What else? In terms of USD, dollar CAD, I do like the look of, to be honest. Shorts there look pretty good. From both zones, so 1.384 and 1.392. I've highlighted both kind of ranges or pullbacks, if you will. This pullback here, brief support created, ripped to the downside. If price can revisit that, I think that's a great place to look to short from, and just continue this bearish trend. I'm pretty bearish now on the dollar CAD. I do think we're likely to come back and retest this zone here to our left. So I'm pretty bearish here for USD CAD, and if that zone doesn't hold, well, I also like the look of this zone here. Again, really big short there to the downside. Nice range. That's where all the momentum basically came from. So if the market can come back and revisit that area, I think that's a great place to short, and the swing trade is looking pretty good. So dollar CAD shorts on the watch list as well. That's kind of it really for the USD. I mean, NZD is on the watch list, but I don't feel like I'll get a trade for this one this week. Either the breaking test with the high there or the retest of this area. I don't know, we might do that. It's only Tuesday. If we see a lot of momentum from somewhere, that could still happen. So yeah, New Zealand dollar, I'll keep an eye on this one too. Like I said, I doubt I'll get a trade this week, but it is on the watch list. It is a pair which I'm looking to trade. Aussie dollar as well is on the watch list as well, but I doubt I get a set up this week. This is where I'm looking to buy it. That looks to me like a week or two away, but it is a pair which I'm going to be monitoring quite a lot. In terms of some of the CAD pairs, New Zealand CAD is on the watch list. I like the buys a lot for this one. It's been very kind of lackluster, very flat, but I like the buys here. The plan for New Zealand CAD is we've had a very sharp V-shaped pattern. I'm looking at this as the correction of the pattern. Now I'm looking at to see if I can catch the continuation. And something like this would do it for me. So I like the range prices created. A lot of people kind of buying at the lows there. I would imagine there'll be a lot of liquidity just resting beneath that. If we can go spike to the downside and then see a strong rejection afterwards, that is kind of what I'm looking for, an entry signal, then targets back to the swing high, and so on and so forth. I'm basically just looking at this as a big bull flag pattern, if you will, and that's the continuation and where I'm trying to buy from. So New Zealand CAD to me, it looks really, really good. I like the setup a lot. Just looking for some entries down at these lows here, away from all the noise of all that structure, and then looking to see if I can swing it back into resistance. So New Zealand CAD longs on the watch list. Not the biggest fan of Aussie CAD longs, but again, when I'm looking for New Zealand CAD to rally, I'm normally looking for Aussie CAD to rally as well. What's up, Alex? Good morning. Hope you're well. Okay, I'll go through dollar CHF. Let me just go through my watch list quickly. So Aussie CAD, I don't mind the buys for this one. I have added it to the watch list, but to be honest, if I can just wait for New Zealand CAD, I'd rather test my chances there with that one. But I am looking for a low here to form, especially as we come back into the low here, where again we had a brief consolidation, rip to the upside. If we can maybe respect that low there well, that could entice an entry out of me. And I do fancy New Zealand CAD to keep pushing, Aussie CAD, sorry, to keep pushing as well, in similar fashion to New Zealand CAD. So I do like that setup, but New Zealand CAD, Aussie CAD, very much the same pair. I do prefer New Zealand CAD, so I think I'll just wait for that one as well. But this is a setup which I do like the look of if I wasn't looking at New Zealand CAD too. Then, of course, in terms of the crosses, pound Aussie shorts, pound NZD shorts, going to see how we react with these levels. If price does hold these areas, I will look to try and take some sells. At the moment, they're quite bullish, so a lot of rejection needs to be done, but they're trading at some healthy areas, so definitely keeping a close eye. Pound NZD as well, definitely keeping a close eye for a short there too. And looking to take a sell out of that. And that pretty much sums up where I'm at in terms of the watch list. Of course, I'm in a long on New Zealand CHF, so that is just the trade I'm managing. But in terms of trades which I'm looking to see if I can enter this week, it's those I'm looking at. I don't feel like I missed anything out. Yeah, I don't think I missed anything out. Okay, where was I? Ross, dollar CHF. Okay, we'll take a look, no problem. Good to hear, Alex, good to hear. Can we take a look at oil? Sure thing. I haven't actually looked at oil since yesterday, so I have no idea what that market has done, but we will go through. Kojo just arrived. Have you checked gold? Yes, I've had a look at gold, but I can go through that again quickly for you, no problemo. But dollar CHF I haven't actually looked at yet. Yeah, I don't mind dollar CHF. It actually was a pair I was going to look to trade last week, but I didn't actually pull back enough for me to get a trade, pull back enough to get to my level. So unfortunately, I kind of missed the trade, and I'm not too sure if I want to get involved this week. But essentially, it looked like from a higher time frame perspective, dollar CHF has respected support here and has reacted to it as resistance. Big wick spiking to the upside, not last week, the week before. And then last week's candle, strong bearish close to the downside. So that's a clear sign of rejection to me. So I am expecting us to continue lower from a higher time frame perspective. So the plan was, in terms of finding entries for dollar CHF, was simply looking for the retest of this zone. It has proved to be very solid resistance on a few occasions, proved to be solid support on a few occasions. So naturally, I was just expecting it to, again, push into the level at resistance, and I can find some shorts from there. Unfortunately, we just missed it by a few pips there, as you can see. We had a nice rally. I think this was on Thursday, Thursday, nice rally. So looking to see if price can get there, but unfortunately, we just missed it. Then we had a bit of a drop there, so it kind of left without me. I still think it could be a nice idea. I do have other pairs which look a little bit better, so that's why I don't have this on the watch list, because I do have quite a few pairs in the watch list right now, and I think dollar CAD looks a lot better as well, so I'd rather just focus on USD CAD. But if there is a suitable rejection, a healthy rejection at this level, if we can get there again, of course, I think that's still a nice place to short from. Get some stops above the high. We already know from a higher time frame perspective on the weekly chart that we're finding resistance here and we're probably likely a push to the downside. So I think some shorts there look good. I think there's a good chance you can ride at least back to support there at 0.819. And then, yeah, I do think we can take it all the way back to the low at 0.80446. So my expectation here for USD CHF is a lot more downside. And I still am bearish on the USD as well. I know I am bearish on the CHF, so it's going to depend which is going to be the weaker currency. I do think it's going to be USD, but we'll have to wait and see. But in terms of setup, this is still something I will keep close tabs on. I think there's a nice sell there to be had. Anyway, let me go through oil. I haven't actually looked at that since yesterday, so I have no idea what has happened. Let us see. Okay, nothing's happened. Yeah, nothing's happened. I'm pretty sure yesterday we were trading here. So yeah, it's basically just been flat. Of course, it was a bank holiday yesterday, so what do you expect? But yeah, not much to report on. But yeah, for oil, it's still the same outlook. We got the 66 level just above us. I would still keep a very close eye on that price gets there, because if price does get there, great, we can start to look for some sells or buys, like I've been saying. If you push into that level, respect it as resistance. I think it's a great place to short, where you can look to try and hold a swing trade back to these lows and maybe even further. And same situation with the buys as well. If price does break to the upside here, a retest, I think that's a phenomenal buy opportunity as well. At the moment, though, it does look like price is really struggling to get to that level, 66. It does look to me that price is just using this as resistance here very well. So I did say some shorts look good if price was to revisit there again, and naturally a push back into support makes sense. I also spoke about potentially a break of support here, and then some retest there. I think that's a safe idea as well. So shorts here or shorts there look good. That's if we don't get that move back to resistance. If price just becomes pretty bearish, then that becomes the move I'll look at. But if this level doesn't hold, well, of course, we're back to 66 at that point, and then we can see what price does there. It could be a massive, massive short to be looked into. But at the moment, I would say oil's in the middle of nowhere. I wouldn't be looking to enter any buys or sells really at this point in time. I need price to return back to structure, back to some areas where, I do expect to see reversals like this level, and of course, like 66. Right now, we're just smack bang in the middle of everything. So looking for us to return back to resistance, then hopefully we can spot some opportunities off the back of that. But for now, I would stay away. We'll go through gold next. Poppy, appreciate it. If you guys are enjoying the stream, please be sure to drop a like on the stream. It does really help out. It does boost the channel, boost the content, of course. And of course, subscribe as well if you're enjoying the content, finding it useful, and want to see more of it. Hit the bell so you don't miss out on any uploads or streams in the future. I do go live every weekday from Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. UK time. So, if you're free, always make sure you pop in, come say hi, have a little chit chat about the markets. But yeah, I appreciate that, Poppy. If you can drop a like, it does really help out. And thank you to everyone who has done that already. Anyway, let's go through gold. Afonso, what is up? Hope you're well. I have a trade on pound Aussie, entry 2.0925, take profit. Hopefully, okay, take profit 2.14. Okay, stop loss 2.07. Wondering if should move stop loss to break even. Okay, I'll have a look. See. First, let me quickly go through gold. So gold, I'm pretty bearish to be honest, Kojo. We've had a very strong reaction this morning, and it set the tone for me, to be honest, because coming to the week, I was a bit indecisive about gold. I didn't really have a clear-cut bias because price was pushing to the upper end of this channel. And I said if I see a clear-cut break out of it to the upside, I'll be pretty bullish. So if you can get a nice candle closing like this above, well, that sets the tone. At that point, I'm expecting us to return back to the all-time highs, 3,500, and possibly break through them. If price wasn't to do that, but respect this level, see a strong shift to the downside, which is what we have got, That to me is a bearish signal. So at this point, I do expect to see a bit of a drop here for gold. The only way I will look to change that bias is if we were to suddenly break to the upside again, or for the first time. That's the only way I look to change my bias. So I think if you're looking to get involved with gold, there might be some lower time frame opportunities, maybe like a retest of some structure back up there. Look for another lower high. That could be a nice intraday trade to look at. But from a swing bias, we are positioned very well for another lower high to form. We've got one over there, second over there. That to me looks like a third forming, and naturally I'll expect to push back into support. So gold to me, not looking too great, not looking too great. This is an interesting one because I am still pretty bearish on USD, so I kind of still expect USD to be weak, which isn't, it doesn't really add up in terms of correlation. But then again, correlation between gold and the DXY has been in the bin for a while. It does come and go. Sometimes the correlation makes sense, and sometimes it's actually inversely correlated, to be honest. So yeah, the correlation between the DXY and the dollar hasn't been great, so I tend not to give that as much meaning as I have done in the past. But for now, things still look pretty bearish there for gold. Alfonso, let's go take a look at that pound Aussie position. So it looks like you're long from 2.0925, which is about there. Stop loss, no, take profit 2.14, which is 141 there. And you got a stop loss at 2.077, which is just underneath the low there. So yeah, I mean, in terms of the entry, I don't mind it, but we are coming back into this high here, so that would be my reservation about that setup, because what we do at this high is going to be very, very pivotal, because this is a high that sent us and created new lows. Now price is returning into that. I know we have some bullish structure, and I assume your plan is to follow that bullish structure, hence where you go to stop loss underneath that low there, as the last swing low before we got that rally to the upside. So I do like that aspect about it, but we are pushing into resistant supply here, which I don't think is the best place to be buying into. Of course, if price does break through this, you're looking pretty good there. At what point should you go break even? I have no idea. Because even if we do clear it slightly, I think going to break even after that is a run at risk, because we are very corrective. It's not like pound Aussie's flying to the upside. It's very corrective on the way up. So even if a slight break to the upside like that, which is not really, it's not even slight to be honest, it's a pretty big one, could still invite potentially a pullback to your entry, and price could still push in your favor. Because we at that point would have broken some structure. Maybe price wants a bit of a relief to push through. So I would give myself some room in that trade, because you are looking for a big swing, you know, almost back to the highs there pretty much. So you want to give yourself the best chance to take advantage of that. I think your stop loss is in the smart place. If price was to go and break structure and take out that low, we probably are going to just sell off back to lows there anyway. So you don't want to be in the long trade at that point. So I think your stop loss is in a sensible place. But we are coming into an interesting area. So I'll probably wait for price to create new structure in my favor. I think that'll probably give me the safest bet to go break even. So let's see if we get the breakout, then price does pull back, forms another higher low, then takes up the high again. Then I think I've got enough safety to go break even, because now I've got structure to protect me, and I'll expect price to respect that and continue. If price goes and breaks structure against me, then it's probably a trade I don't want to be in, or a trade where I look for a re-entry at a better price. So yeah, I like the stop loss placement. In terms of break even, I wouldn't say there's a specific price I would say to go break even at, just because of where we're kind of situated. You know, if you were trading down here, let's say an entry here and a stop loss there, let's say, well then I would say probably go break even at the high there, because that's a place where price might go against you. But because we're coming into it right now, I don't think going break even would be smart, just because the risk of just getting wicked out randomly is pretty high. But yeah, if we can create some structure in your favor, I think that is a good place to bet on. And then, yeah, you could be looking at push back to 2.14. And at that point, we might get to 2.15 or 2.16 and create new highs at that point. But, yeah, that is an interesting level. Yeah, true. Aussie's not playing ball at the moment, and pound has been pretty strong. It's been pretty strong since last week as well. I think, of course, we look at pound NZD. That was looking pretty bullish. We had pound CAD not so bullish, but I think as a whole it is still bullish. So we are still kind of pushing to the upside. I know the past few days we've been a bit flat there, but I think CAD has been a bit strong too a little bit. But overall, we are pushing up. Of course, pound USD, that has absolutely flown to the upside. So we can see the strength there as well. Pound Yen's been pretty bullish as well. Really strong push to the upside. Looks like pound is still very strong against the yen right now. And of course, euro pound still falling. Still showing strength there for pounds. Hence why we're still falling down. So I do think as a whole, pound is definitely a strong currency right now. Would say the strongest, but definitely top 3 right now. So pound buys do make a lot of sense. Let's see if that continuation can definitely happen. But let me have a quick look at the yen basket there. Oh, okay. So the yen is not doing too well. Still looking pretty bearish. So looks like we're probably going to push back into that first level support, 67.50. I said that was the first target there for the yen. Of course, next target will be the lows, 6,600. But yeah, the yen basket looking pretty bearish. That should drive higher prices for pretty much all the yen pairs. Of course, it will depend on which pair it's partnered with. Of course, I look at GJ's doing pretty well. I would imagine maybe Swiss yen not doing too well because Swiss is also a little bit weak. So we're not seeing as much momentum there. How's the Aussie yen doing? That one's starting to push. New Zealand yen starting to push, but not much there. Euro yen, I imagine that's being pretty bullish. Yep, looks like Euro yen trying to break structure now. So if Euro yen does break the highs there, I think that's a solid buy signal, especially on some pullbacks intraday. I feel like if you can get a retest somewhere, or maybe a retest of some structure here, that is a really nice buy opportunity there. CAD yen, yeah, looking pretty bullish. So yeah, a little bit gutted there because I was hoping to get a New Zealand yen long trade this week. I mean, I still can. It's not really gone too far. But I was hoping for a nice little bottom here. And again, still very much can happen. But if the yen keeps falling, I doubt New Zealand yen will give me that pullback unless NZD becomes very weak for whatever reason. But yeah, I do think there's more upside for New Zealand and Aussie. I think especially with Aussie coming from this level here, we're geared up for a big swing. I like the way prices move back down. Nice and corrective, pretty big swing. I do feel like we can see something like this for Aussie yen in the next few days. How's the DXY doing? Okay, DXY looks pretty strong at the moment, but we are coming to structure now, so it's going to see how price reacts with this. If I drop to the hourly chart, yeah, not much. We are pulling back there a little bit. How's Euro USD doing? Yeah, still sideways. So, yeah, I mean, I'm still pretty bearish on USD. I haven't really seen that happen this week, but I feel like we're having a retracement anyway. So it's not like I was expecting price to be bearish from the open till the close of the week. Of course not. We are going to see some upside from here and there. And if the market does retrace, we're going to have to see some upside anyway. So I'm still treating this bullish move as a pullback, which is why I haven't been very convinced about shorting Aussie dollar or New Zealand dollar, because I'm not too sure how far they go. I know Aussie and NZD are still a little bit weak right now, but again, the main driving force is going to be the dollar. So if USD is going to be strong, that will push Aussie dollar down. If USD is going to be weak, that will probably push Aussie dollar up, despite what Aussie does as a currency. And same with NZD as well. I know NZD, yes, they did come into some really healthy resistance. We respected it pretty well. It's been a nice drop, but how far do we go? I'm not too sure of this one. I'm not too sure. And again, especially with entries, you know, everyone's so eager to enter into a position and take an entry, and you know, entries are very talked about, and rightly so. Entries are very important. You need to know how to enter the market, but exits are just important, because exits define whether the trade was a profitable trade or a losing trade, or a very profitable trade, or just a slightly profitable trade, or a very big losing trade. The exit is just as important as the entry. I would say potentially even more important as a whole, to be honest, because you can have some really kind of average entries, but where you exit makes it a good trade. You know, everyone's trying to enter right at the top, right at the top here. Everyone's trying to get the entry here, but you know, if your entry's there but your exit's here, you know, what was the point? I'd rather get an entry here and try and exit down there. I'll make a lot more profit from that, and maybe hopefully even further. And the funny thing is, with the effort wasted in terms of trying to get the perfect entry there, you know, you're not really seeing proportional results for that, because you can be safe, take the more conservative entry, wait for more confirmation. Of course, maybe you don't have the tightest stop loss in the world, but you can still let trades run. You know, the market is still volatile enough. You still see big enough swings. You don't have to keep it very, very minimal. You know, this is still a very average swing for a pair, and you don't have to be right here. You can be there and still ride the bulk of that position. And of course, where you exit is very important. You know, if you exit here, or do you exit up there? And of course, your exit's not always going to be perfect every single time, just like your entry won't be perfect every single time. But if you can put as much effort as you do to your entries, put that same effort into your exits, you will benefit so much more for it. A lot of people are just sacrificing the exit part just to really focus on the entry. Yeah, which is, again, it's good. You wanna get good at entering the market, but your exit's going to define your profit and loss. But anyway, yeah, with New Zealand dollar, it was a nice rejection from that level. But again, I'm not too sure how we push, especially with a bearish bias on USD. I'm more fixated on the break and retest opportunities. So hopefully I can get some entries like that this week, or even at the lows. I don't really mind. I mean, of course, I'd rather be at the lows there, because I'm better positioned for a swing trade. If I enter a trade here, I can't really push the trade too far, because I'm a bit vulnerable here. Because the market's already had a pretty juicy move to the upside. So if I do take a buy, yes, I might catch a nice rip to the upside, but I would be expecting a bigger pullback at some point. If I can get along from here, though, I can probably give myself a bit more room and have a bit more of an aggressive target, because I'm a lot deeper down. If the market does rip to the upside and has a pullback, maybe I can stomach that pullback and then catch another big swing to the upside. Whereas this one, I might get taken out of break even. So naturally, I always like to buy further down if the opportunity is there. I wouldn't turn away from this type of trade. It still can give a nice move, but I just wouldn't mean I look for the big swing trade here. Here I would, there I wouldn't. And again, that comes down to exits and management as well. But yeah, I'll keep an eye on that. And again, NZUSD is on the watch list. I just don't see an opportunity setting up this week, just with how everything is moving, to be honest. Hopefully it does speed up, but I don't see it happening. And same thing with Pound USD as well. I like Pound USD buys. We're very, very bullish. I do think price can keep pushing, but because Pound USD's already had such a big move here, not that we can't get another big move, of course not, but I always like buying where there's value. If the market's had a big retracement, well, there's value there for price to push up again. So not that I would turn away from the buy setups here on the retest of this zone. I think that's still a great buy for Pound USD. Again, I'll be looking at some smaller swings here because the market's already had such a big move. And by smaller swings, I just mean back to the relative high, which is still a pretty juicy move. Still looking at probably 100 pips there at least. Yeah, 160 there. So still a decent move there. But I wouldn't be looking at anything beyond that point really because I know the market's stretched. If I can have pound USD have that bigger correction and then things start to change, well, again, this type of entry here will allow me to look for the bigger move because, again, if I do see a pullback against me, I probably can stomach it. Whereas pound USD up there, no. And again, it's just a rough estimation of the market. Potentially the market does bounce here and we do rally for 300 pips. That could be the situation, but you're not to know that beforehand. You can only do what is in probability. And especially in FX, when we already had a big move, you don't want to be looking for another big move. More often than not, big moves lead to retracement or reversal. Hassan, Aussie CAD, okay, we'll take a look at that for you. Aussie CAD I'm pretty bullish on. Aussie CAD, New Zealand CAD I'm looking to buy. I do think there's more upside for both of them. Yeah, in terms of opportunities, this is really what I'm looking at, a nice kind of corrective pullback, and there is a bit of a zone just below us here where we did kind of consolidate a little bit, and we did have a nice rally. Looking to see if the market can tap back into that before we do continue back to highs and maybe further as well, which would be 0.904 there. So I'm pretty bullish here for Aussie CAD. I do think New Zealand CAD looks a little bit better, so I think I'll just focus on that one, but I expect both of them to do roughly the same thing really. At the moment, kind of just slowly pushing down, but I do think we can double bottom or at least reject this zone here and then possibly rally from there. And then, yeah, targets back to the swing high. Okay, you've got an entry. Let's mark that on. Let me just get rid of these arrows. So your entry, 88,798. Okay, that's roughly around there. Stop loss 88,600. Okay, that's just below support there. And targets 894. 894. I'll take you back to the high there. Not a bad trade. Not a bad trade. I like it. Prices approach support here. I can imagine that's where you look to base a trade from. So I can definitely understand that. The only thing I personally would want to see would be more signs of rejection at that low before buying. I'm not too sure what time frame you've gone long from, but I would look to see more evidence for a buy there. Especially if you're going to drop to a lower time frame for an entry, I'd wait for some more rejection. And so far we kind of are starting to see that. I like the wicks here to the downside. We're slowly building up. I like to see momentum really shift to really invite me into the trade. Right now we had a slight rejection on the 30-minute there with that bullish engulfing candle, but doesn't really mean too much. On the hourly chart, haven't really seen much there at all. So I would probably have waited for more signs of price rejecting. A stronger candle close, more momentum, more wicks. That's kind of the signs I'll be looking for an entry. In terms of the location, I do like it right at the lows here. In terms of targets, I like it as well. Back to the highs there, up end of the channel makes sense too. So in terms of location of entry, in terms of the location of the stop loss, giving yourself a decent bit of room there. In terms of location of targets, I think all makes sense. It's just the entry I probably would have waited for a little bit more in my favor. That might mean that you probably got a little bit of a higher entry, which is not great for risk to reward, but at least it'll give me a bit more confidence that, okay, price is now likely to rally in my direction because I've got that momentum in my favor. So that's the only thing I would say. But apart from that, I like the idea of the trade. Looking to take a bounce off the low there. So yeah, I do like that position. Just personally, I would wait for a stronger sign of rejection before taking along there. yeah. And again, that's not necessarily a right or wrong thing to do because, again, like I said, waiting for a little bit more in terms of rejection normally does sabotage your risk reward a little bit. It doesn't let you get the best entry possible, but it does help in terms of the success for the trade in the long run. But with the way you've done it, it gives you a better risk reward as well. So if it does play out, you're laughing. But yeah, as a whole, I do like the position. Just I would wait for a bit more entry there. Where would you have placed your stop loss? Yeah, in the same place, pretty much, same place. Like I said, I like the entry location because you're trading at support there. I like the target. You swing it back to the swing high there. Makes sense. I like your stop loss underneath support there. Give yourself a bit of room as well if the market wants to fluctuate. So that is basically how I trade as well. When price gets to my levels, I look for the entry signal. I always place my stop loss below the level plus a bit of wiggle room just to give myself that breathing room, because from experience, sometimes the market will give you some random wicks here and there, especially in some of the minor pairs, especially during times of news. You can see kind of a bit of back and forth, and spread might widen a little bit as well. So giving yourself that little bit more room can help kind of stomach the spread too if it does widen. But yeah, in terms of stop loss, I don't see any issues with that. It's in a great place for a stop loss for that trade. Like I said, the only thing I would tweak is probably waiting for a little bit more of an entry signal. But I like where we're positioned. And I'm looking for something similar on New Zealand CAD as well. But that one's not quite at support yet, so I feel like we've got a little bit more downside to give first before I can look to buy this. So I'm looking for price to come right back to the low. I actually want it to take out the wick there as well. That will add some nice confidence to the position, take out the wick and then rally. Because all I'm looking for is just a continuation of that bullish move. But yeah, I'm going to treat that as a big kind of flag pattern. Swing to the low, maybe hit the low of the channel. That would be nice as well. Then yeah, swing it back to the highs and hopefully some new highs there as well. Hassan, I really like your New Zealand CAD idea. Yeah, I mean, it's a similar idea to the Aussie CAD idea. Again, they're very similar pairs, so the idea is pretty much the same. I would, like I said, I prefer the New Zealand CAD price action. I think it's a little bit cleaner in terms of the nice rally we had there, the kind of correction we have here, buying at the low and then taking the rally. I think it's a little bit cleaner than Aussie CAD. Aussie CAD's a bit more choppier. So for that reason, I think I would just stay with New Zealand CAD. But again, if New Zealand CAD is going to rally like that, then Aussie CAD is probably going to see a similar rally to the upside as well. Very rarely you're going to get New Zealand CAD being very bullish and Aussie CAD just kind of doing nothing. Even if it is going to be slower, it will still kind of push up slowly. It might not be as rapid, but it will still push up to a degree. So yeah, both of them look pretty good, but New Zealand CAD is just a cleaner setup. And as a technical trader, I'm always gonna drift to the setup that just provides me more clarity in the price action, and that would be New Zealand CAD. So yeah, waiting for another push lower. I also like it because again, it's very very sideways. So I would imagine there'll be a lot of people just buying at the lows here, and there'll be a lot of stop losses there. I'm looking for that to run first, and then trying to see if I can take advantage of the swing. And this could be a setup late in the week. I'm hoping for it. Probably at least a couple days away from shaping up. But yeah, if I can see the rejection, I am looking for a buy. And again, I'm still trying to anticipate Entity and Aussie strength. That's still where I think the bigger move could be for both Entity and Aussie. At the moment, not really seeing that, to be honest. Entity is still on the weaker side of things. I think Aussie's still on the weaker side of things as well. Yeah, so I haven't really seen that bias come through yet, but I still do think that's where the bigger move is for both of them. I've looked at a lot of the markets, and it does look like Aussie and Entity could be gearing up for a bigger move longer term, so that's kind of where I'm positioned at. But again, I could be wrong with that as well. And again, the important thing as a trader is not so much in terms of predicting, okay, I predict this to be strong for 3 months. It doesn't really mean anything if you don't trade it. So predictions always wishy-washy. You do want to have an expectation, of course, but prediction is a different thing. So an expectation, you expect price to do this, but you can always pivot that expectation. Prediction, you want to lock something in and stand by it so much. You don't really want to do that with trading, because it might not do that, and then you don't want to be in the position where you miss out on the move of the market because you're so kind of focused on what you predicted the market to do, which I'm guilty of sometimes as well. Definitely something that I'm continuously working on, because sometimes you have a bias and then you set in that bias, then you ignore really good opportunities in the opposite direction just because you're trying to trade that bias, which is necessarily not something wrong with, because it does show discipline and consistency to stick with that bias. But then again, if you're missing good opportunities in the opposite direction, yeah, you want to take advantage of that as well and be prepared to pivot that bias. And the best kind of way to kind of manage that is just have a rule in place, which, okay, if price is still doing this, I stay bullish. If it doesn't do this anymore, I do reverse or change bias or become neutral. And the best way to do that is a break of structure. If price violates structure, well, I wouldn't be bullish or bearish anymore. But for now, New Zealand CAD's still looking good, so the bias does remain. Like I said, the only pair right now is New Zealand CHF, so just going to see how this gets going. At the moment, more or less around my entry price. Haven't really seen the development I've been wanting on this position just yet, but again, it's a swing trade. I'm not expecting price just to make a beeline to my take profit. That would be nice, but yeah, price is going to do things like this. That's even a wonderful move. Even if that happens, probably would be worse than that, so I have to be prepared to stomach the kind of natural movements of the market, and of course manage it as well along the way. But that's the position I've got going at the moment. If I do see myself getting to another trade, it might be Euro Pound if suddenly Pound becomes weak this afternoon. I think it is coming to a nice area, so Euro Pound I would probably say is my most likely for a trade today. Pairs like Aussie Yen, New Zealand Yen, I don't see, at least today anyway. I don't see price returning to that level just yet. New Zealand Yen, likewise as well. USD CAD, that's very far away from an entry, so again, just keeping an eye on things. No need to watch the market. I don't think I'll even set an alert because we're not even close. Like I said, New Zealand CAD, Aussie CAD, and then of course Pound NZD and Pound Aussie. Those two I'm keeping a very close eye on. Actually, I need to keep a very close eye because they're both at some interesting levels where we could sell off. So these are actually pairs I need to keep an eye on. If Pound does switch strength as it becomes weak, there might be some opportunities here. Same thing for Pound Aussie as well. Looking very bullish at the moment, but things can change very quickly. So we'll have to stay on top of that. And then of course gold. Yeah, gold looking pretty bearish. Silver looking pretty bearish as well. How's the DXY looking? Okay, that did close pretty strong there. It's still in structure, so it doesn't really mean too much to me. Again, we can pull back anywhere within this level and still continue back down. So yeah, looking bullish right now, but I still do fancy price to roll over. It might mean we have a bigger pullback than expected, but as long as we don't violate structure, still look for USD weakness. And guys, that does bring us to the end of the stream. I hope each and every one of you has enjoyed it, found it useful. If that's the case, please be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. We'll be live again tomorrow, same time as always, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. UK time. I hope to see each and every one of you there. If you have enjoyed it, you want to see more of the content, like I said, subscribe as well. But also check out the Discord link in the description. Got the community there. You can chat with other traders, share ideas, chat with myself there as well. So if you are interested, check out the Discord. Free to join. linked in the description and also at the top of the chat, so you can't miss on that. But guys, really appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much for chatting with myself, liking the stream, commenting, hitting the sub button. It does really help out and it makes the channel what it is. I do really appreciate that, guys. But we'll be live again tomorrow. Hope to see each and every one of you there. But until then, take care and have a good one.